You've got to give to get. You've got to put out.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wisdom Workshop. This is our second day, so I want to get more in depth. I want to have more fun. I know last time just going through the basics of Reaper was not a lot of fun at all. Oh, I gotta close my monitor here a little bit. It's screwing with my eyes. The delay. Ha 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 ha. See how I'm utilizing the mic here? This is my kid's microphone for up at the other computer. This is called being classy. Or ghetto classy. So, as usual, I'm starting from scratch right here. We will be making and utilizing a drum rack. I've had a lot of requests from a lot of people trying to understand MIDI controls, which is super simple for keys, to play an instrument or a keyboard. But to control, like you would think about an Ableton or other DAWs or Machine, MPC, that's going to require a little bit more knowledge, which we're going to go through. Yay! But to do so, and for you guys to have the full experience, I needed to make sure that you have everything set up. One of the things we're going to be going through is called Repack. It is not installed on it. We are going to go through it now, and we're going to just start getting these installs first. Also, if you go to the Facebook post that I have, make sure you pull the zip package up. I got some drum beats in there and some samples we're going to use. If I get time to go through the dynamics equalizer, I'm going to show you a couple things with that, and this will allow you to follow along. Excuse me. If this is your first time tuning in, there is also another pack that I had put in on the last episode, which I will post into the comments again right now for you guys. The Reaper stuff. And that allows you to have the skin that you'll see on my Reaper that allows you to interact the same way I do. So let's get that posted here for you guys. Boop. So there's the drum rack that I've posted in here right under the stream of me watching me. And then there's also the Reaper stuff, which you can go through if you didn't watch last episode and see how to do that. All right, so we are done with this part. Let's skedaddle out of here. First thing we're going to do is I want to get the repack, so that's just done and over so we can get into the program. So go ahead and open your browser, and we're going to go to the Reaper.fm webpage. And then up in the corner here, you'll see resources. Click it. I already had it clicked because I had it open. And right here, you'll see Repack Package Manager. Say that really fast. Now, what the Repack is, it's a browser that'll stay installed inside a Reaper. And anytime people create scripts or things that they can do, quick commands, guys, so many things. There's thousands of things. Some of them are just commands. Some of them are GUI interfaces. Some of them create functions that people have always wanted that they just didn't exist in the root of the way you wanted to use it, whether it be live performance or recording, MIDI. They all exist here. And we're only going to be using one thing out of it that we're going to be going through. And you can scan through the rest, watch YouTube videos. There's just hundreds and hundreds of those. The one we are going to use is the Resampler-O-Matic drum rack. And I'll show you why when we get to it, and I'll show you that you don't have to use it. That you don't need this. This is just something that I think you want because you want that interface. You want that ability for it to look like your drum pads or an MPC or a push pad, and this gives that to you. By all means, we don't need to do this to run a drum rack. But it's the one little extra thing that allows you to do everything else that we're going to do in the future, so might as well just start now. Okie dokie. So if you haven't had a chance, make sure to get into the chat room. You can get in through Twitch. That's how I'm seeing it. I'm not doing this multi-stream, so I can't see your information there. Sad days. I'd have to pull it up on my laptop here and check. And see, I can put it here, and then you see me like I'm looking at my head, and this is me going the other way. Shmee. Okay. Just welcome in. Say hi when you get in. Say hello. I'm trying to keep it open to watch. Okay, so depending on the Reaper that you downloaded is what you want to get. Linux, Windows, Mac. Match your 3264. I recommend just downloading it. If you're going to download this folder, if it's just automatic for you, but I have mine set up to ask me where I want to download it. when you do it, just download it to your desktop. We're going to be putting it in a different location. That's what I'm going to go over with you right now, because you don't just copy it into the Reaper folder like you do a lot of their items. So go ahead and download that. It's 2 MB, 1 MB. I downloaded it 20 times while I was talking. That's done now. That's done there now, though. That's done there. Here, diddly do. All right. So is my sound okay? Am I here? I did a tester. I see my mic. Okay. I didn't do a good sound check in Reaper. If you guys have to tell me to turn it down, be like, oh my gosh, you're being crazy. We can do that. So once you have it downloaded to your desktop, go ahead and right-click it, copy it, or cut it. And then I want you to open Reaper. Now's our time. Get it open. Let it go through the 4-second countdown if you haven't purchased your license for it. And now that you have it open, what we are going to do It's been so long since I've done this. I'm like, wait a minute. Now my brain forgot. Oh, it's in view. Everything is eventually always in view, isn't it? Because it's always here. Ooh, we might actually have to look for the tutorial for it. I am forgetting, guys. Right off the top of my head, I'm forgetting how to... It's supposed to go into a very specific folder that's linked to Reaper, which is usually you can just find through here, and now I totally forgot. And now it's silly. Super silly. We're silly, guys. This is what happens when you're running around with your head cut off before you start and you don't set everything up. I did get the samples for you this time. And that set up. You're welcome there. Oh my gosh. So here's our action list and our extensions. You guys should have installed the extensions last time. That's also in that pack. Gives you tons of capabilities. Where are you at? I know it's just a thing. I could just never read it. Ah, there it is. Okay. I found it. I'm so sorry. That was a pain in the ass. So, options, down near the bottom where I'm highlighting here. And it's show Reaper resource path. The resource path. See that? See that? You click that. Paste that file that you downloaded into here. Once you have done that, go ahead and close Reaper. You don't need to save anything, and that doesn't matter. And then we're going to reopen it. When you hit extensions now in your drop-down menu, you'll see at the very bottom, or some of it at the top, I think Mac, up here. You'll see it in the list that you now have a repack. We're going to go in here, and you're going to go to Browse Packages. Now you can actually just, at this point, this is everything that exists. This is the slew. You can read through them, you can do research, and it's kind of it's a mother load. It really is. But we are going to just look for one right now. It's RS5K Manager. I know that was a little bit weird. And you're like, wait, what? Just type that in there, and you see it. Right click, and yours will. Mine says reinstall because I already have it installed. Click install. It's simple. It's small. Boop. It's in. You can do all of them. You can go select all 2,000 packages, thousands of them. And go back to here, so it shows all of them. Select all of them, and then just right click and install. And it'll just install all of them real quick. And then all of those are going to be now available. If you go to Actions, Show Action List, you now have all those scripts plus all the other items that were part of Reaper, the functions, the tracks, your MIDI, moving, toggling left and right key. This is how I was playing live and being able to open up multiple song tabs as their own projects and using MIDI to go between each project tab instead of doing it all on one project, saving a ton of buffer space trying having all that background data not running. So on that note, open up your actions once you've installed it. Type that in again. You want to type RS5. Okay. And at the very bottom, you'll see the script RS5K Manager Background LUA. Now, I added a shortcut to it. I recommend you do that right now. There's a lot of things already being used, and you don't know what they all are. So just click Add, and you can use a MIDI key if you want. I wouldn't recommend that right now. We're going to get to why. You can use buttons, controller buttons. I was going to set up a secondary controller just to use as a Reaper control interface. I don't mind using my mouse and keyboard, so I don't. But if you're someone that has to have the toggles and switches in front of you to key everything or open things, this is where you do it. This is the spot. So you have the keyboard. I hit Control. I think what did I use? Alt Shift R, and that opens it. Now you don't have to create a MIDI function for it, or a quick command or a key for it, an F code, a number pad, whatever you want to use, and you can have do multiple items. It'll just run both of them at the same time if you have different things going. You can also just click on it and hit run. But I have it on a quick command, so at this point in time, I can just go Alt Shift R, and it'll pop mine up. Ooh, look, that looks familiar. That's what you guys wanted to see. Yours won't look like that when you first get it. It is under the key controls, layouts. Yours, I believe, just looks like this, which is fine if you want it like that, but the keys I'm going to be using when we get to the MIDI pads are not all in line of each other, and I'm not seeing all my octaves. You can see the MIDI note 25, 27, 30, and so you can see those notes. I kind of prefer having all of it visible to my ability, so key options, layouts, and you can see what you have here. You have the Korg Nano pad, Ableton Live Drum Rack, Ableton Push, 8x8 segment. I think I had it on the rack. I can't remember. Nope, I did bigger. Which one was it? I've only been playing with this for a couple days. I didn't even know about the repack till last week, and it's been out for a while. I'm also going to try to show you something cool that I just learned today looking at the Reaper website. The stuff is constantly updating. There's always updates. And sometimes the way you write music and do things, you don't realize what that update's doing until you need it, or it pops up. And there's a few cool things that they've done that is just really cool. One of them is embedded EQ, the EQ that I always use. I can actually embed into the track itself so it's visible. You don't have to open it up as an effect chain. So kind of like Ableton, how it reads in the rack under the track. Kind of like that. It doesn't do it with all effects. It has to be Reaper effects because it embeds into itself, so it can't use third-party GUI. Yeah, that's a lot of things here, isn't it? There's the 8x8. And that allows me to have all the pads. Since I'm not feeling it don't matter that I see that many, just means I see more of my notes. What you're seeing there, if you're new to this, is your notes. You have your A5, A sharp 5, 4, and you can scroll through. We'll get more to this. We will come back to this. I just wanted this installed. You're now ready for the next part, and when this comes in, we will come back to it, and you'll be very happy that you have this. My little finger drummer boys. Yes, you are. I'm going to do this just for a second so we can close this for a second. And also remember, again, you can set up the shortcut for it, which I have Alt-Shift-R as my shortcut. Again, to get to it, if you need to find these items, it's in your action list. Get used to going to your actions list for certain things, or setting up codes for them so you don't have to. Actions list, RS5, okay, and what you're looking for is the one that says background, LUA. And these are all different scripts that do them. You can read them and they can do different things for it and help you. These are all either different commands. They're not all just like layouts. They could be functions. You have to read through them when you get time. We will not do that here. We are on a direct mission. That mission was a request that was asked to me months ago. I don't like doing it just because I suck at it, guys. I don't like writing drums in MIDI. I don't. This is one of the reasons I love Reapers. I don't want MIDI dots all over a MIDI screen representing fluid transients and peaks. Transients are the sharp tops of an audio file. I like to see the actual audio file, so I like to work with the direct audio file myself. But I get so many requests for this, and people complain that Reaper's not functional because of this, that I need to set you straight and say, yes, it is, you just don't know, because everyone else uses another program, and so it's easy for everyone to teach. This is no different. It just looks different. They all function the same. This one you just have more control. So in the download I gave you what we're going to build, and I'm going to open it up real fast, and you can go to File. You can just double click it and it'll open the project. I have mine, since I already opened it a few times, recent projects. We got a drum rack. Boom. This is your drum rack. This is what you're seeing. What you're seeing here is a group. I didn't go over the groups tab with you guys last time I wanted to. So let me hurry and explain this. I'll try to do it really quickly so I'm not bothersome in this. So your group is, you see this folder right here. It says track is in a folder. If I click this folder, it takes it all away. There is a bar that runs down the left side, kind of like a bus, if you want to consider it that way of audio. If I wanted it in a group, you can click any of these. They all have folders. I click this down, and it puts that book. It puts anything under it. Kind of think about this like Photoshop. The way you put all your items in a folder, and then you can affect that folder, and it affects everything within it, or you can affect individual layers within it. This is that same exact concept. It's a send and receive, but more visual and physical instead of sending wires back and forth. You're pretty much just saying, oh, I want all these to go to this. And then you can be more in-depth and choose how in your sends and receives, which is what this is set up for. We will go through that too. But once you have it down, it'll keep going down, and it'll put every channel in here until you click the bottom one or wherever you want the folder to end. I created a track just really fast, and it says end of group, no sound, just so I can tell myself that I typed that in there. Double click and type. Simple. I hit this folder, so if I take it out, now any folder I add in or any track goes inside the folder. I don't want those. We want it to end here, and we want that to be the end of the drum rack, so that way anything after that is not part of that drum rack group. So I'm going to click the folder up, and it has the arrow up. So up here you have the arrow down, and then the arrow up, and everything in it. So, and then on the side you can organize. It has a little, like a tree, how you can branch in and branch in. You can branch in more. You can put a group in a group. Put that group inside of there, and it groups and chains in. Be wary that it acts like actual audio when you do this, so you will lose volume. The same as send and receive, in and out, in and out. The more ins and outs you have, the flatter the sound becomes, and the more you're going to have to pull and tug on it in order to get anything to function properly. Now, I could just let you play with this, and you can go on it with yourself, but I do want to explain how it was built and how it works. So it's that way you know how to go about doing this yourself, because right now I just have this 6 setup. I have 6 pads that I want to use here on my keyboard, and there's no reason for more of that. But if you're wanting to add, or you're using a push, or you actually do have your stuff set up, oh, wrong, that's my render, Shift R. You can see how I have that. We'll get to how those are showing now on there. And it shows for each one, but we'll get to there. If I wanted to do that and have that many, you could. You could have 59, and then you can use your whole thing here and make your whole song out of it. And there's a methodology to actually recording and doing that. If you're wanting to multi-track, where you're starting and stopping in the middle of your transpose already playing, aka Ableton, where each sound has its own play transpose and stop transpose with syncing, time syncing, this will not do that. Neither will Reaper in general, neither will Sonar, neither will Pro Tools. That is an Ableton God love feature that make why electronic music loves it and goes so deep. That is the key to Ableton, is that. That is the major difference that sets it aside. Does not mean it doesn't exist. It's called Playtime. I paid $19 for it. I think it was $29 because it's from a different country, and it creates this item like you see here for Reaper. The only reason I'm not going over it with you guys is because I did pay for it, and I'm trying to give you guys every tool to do things that doesn't cost money. If you guys want to ask me in the future to go over my live performance setup on how you can do that, and it does allow every sample to have its own transpose, along with having multiple samples on one channel. You can have an entire song on this one channel. It's weird. It's weird, but it's super functional, and it's very efficient. So it's something to look into, but that's not where we're going now. We're just going into recording, drum, and MIDI. Close that back again now. So you have this open here, and what you're looking at is the drum rack that's in the group. We'll try to go over there as fast as possible. I'm sorry, I suck at that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. At the very top, I put drum kit. That, and then you see the effects is glowing. You can see inside one, it says kick, snare, perk. That's perky. Hat open, hat closed, cymbal. And then you see below, I see kick, snare, perk. If I don't click that. Hat, cymbal. What I have done is created a MIDI sequence for right here. So I would put a MIDI notes in here, type and click, which we will do, and I'll show you. But when they play, they will actually play out of these channels. That way you can isolate and separate all your kicks. Because what use is doing a drum kit if they all record onto one channel? You're F to the A. That's the stupidest thing ever, guys. If you're recording all your crap to one channel and then trying to EQ it, you're just stop writing music there and go use GarageBand. You need to separate everything that you possibly can. Even if you're working with percussions, I like to separate those and isolate the EQ zones. Off my rant there. So you don't have it all in one. You can just make it all in one, but it's all separated. I think really fast what I'm going to do is we're going to start a new project. Remember, Alt-D opens the Docker. So if you're wanting more sequencer space and you're not using two monitors, again, you Alt-D and just reminder there. Also, if you do have a second monitor, you can just right-click, down here. Make sure you get right here. It says attach Docker to bottom. Just uncheck it and it'll float, and then you can pull it over to your second monitor. Have your sequencer free here and all your crap over here. That has all your tabs. It's your choice. I'm doing it here because I cannot have two monitors on here at the time. That's still something that's really sad that I'm working on. So again, get into the chat, guys. If you have questions, I have the chat room and Twitch open that syncs into here. Come in, say hi. So there's at least a face in here. It's like, oh my gosh, yay, face. It's top. It shows in the top corner. You can even say it where I put the packages in Facebook. I have that open next to me. So I love you. Come say hi. So I started a new project, and we want to build a drum rack. The first thing you have to know about is you don't just open drum rack, and there is nothing called drum. There is something in Reaper that has the coolest name ever next to the Reefer. We will talk about the Reefer later. Reefer rocks. And it's not just because it's 420 month. No, Reefer rocks. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is the Resampler-O-Matic 5000. I'm not joking. So right off the bat, I'm going to double click, create a channel. And we want to open that because I just want to show it to you. So I have it in my favorites, but we'll go back up to all plugins. If you go to Cocos, again, it's a Reaper. If anything starts with a Re, you'll find it in the Cocos folder. And it is hard to miss. Resampler-O-Matic 5000. As simple and cheesy as it is extraordinarily effective, fast, and it allows you to stack them very effectively. So I'm going to just throw that into my track there, and boom. Essentially what you have is a sampler. Just like you have in Rees and everything, it's a single sample sampler. You have your different things that you can do to it. Your mode, sample means ignore MIDI notes. It's right where it is, so it'll play the same wherever. Or you can freely configure shifted or note semitone. Semitone treats it like a keyboard, so your scale, according to what it's set at, will go up and down starting at your C2. Like if you're your keyboard is set at C2, is normal C2 would be the normal sound. Then if you go to D or E or F, it's going to go up and note, do, 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 and down. It can get pretty twitchy. It can get kind of crappy, but that's how you set between it. For drumming, we're going to keep it on sample. We don't need it on anything else. But also for drumming, you know what? We need to get your MIDI device. You don't have a controller set up, do you? Oh, that's so sad. We're going to leave you here. We will load samples into you in a minute. By the way, that's a little play button for a weird little black screen. People always never find that. Oh no, where it is. Close this. If you go up here in the top right corner, let's start with your audio card. We'll go through real quickly between that and your devices just so you're set. Up in your top right corner, click it, and this opens up preferences. You can also go to options preferences, and it's going to open up all your preferences. Go through here. This is where you find your VST folder. I will link that to you guys now so you have that. Mouse modifiers, editors, how it plays back, buffering, but we're not going to worry about any of that. Your devices. If you do not have an audio card, I still think you need to download Osseo for All. Google Osseo #4 All. And still install that it's still going to run better. If you have an audio card, you can, after you've installed the drivers, you should be able to select it. I will warn that if you're using the EIEs or the Focusrite, you sometimes can't use their audio card. You have to select it through direct sound. It's really weird. You can still find it. You'll go to direct sound and then it'll show it in there, but you can't use the Osseo. For some reason, I've had many experiences with those where you can't run the Focusrites through the Osseo. But anything else, I go to Osseo, downloaded, and most of it installed because it came with the complete audio that I use. Set your inputs to left and right. If they have outputs, don't worry about that. That's your device. And then you hit OK. And once you hit OK, we're going to go back to this. I just want you to see. You can see up here in the top corner it says 9.2/11 milliseconds. That's the millisecond delay and buffer for working with any audio. That essentially means the higher that number is, the more the delay you get. This is very important for MIDI. You want this number very low in recording MIDI, but also you want all other tracks muted and effects muted so that you're not stacking on buffering, which is why you usually want to write your drums first or write them separately and import them in. You don't want to go in and do a massive 10-track auto-record MIDI trying to lower your buffer and have a bunch of song already sequenced out. You'll absolutely crash Reaper. If there's a way to crash Reaper, that's the way to do it. So you don't want to do that. But when you're just recording, you want this number as good and low as you can get without it clipping. I have found my happy medium there. To do so, you go to Osseo configuration, and this should open up whatever comes with your audio card. If you got the Osseo for All, it'll be a little blue screen with levers on the sides, on each side, one on this side, one on this side, output latency, input latency, and you can control the samples on it. Right now mine's set at 256. As my songs get bigger and I've exported a lot to audio, I have to go up pretty high sometimes. USB buffer, but not all of them will have all these options. This is for complete audio, so this will depend on your audio card, and some interfaces are big and bulky, some of them are simple, in and out. Macs can be a little bit interesting. But if you get a good low number there, and if you'll watch, I'll go up to 512, and it's showing that time latency latency is 17 milliseconds, and that's what we'll show there is 17, 19. It'll have a range. If I go up to 1024, it'd be 28 milliseconds. That's a long delay, and when you're trying to control MIDI, that's a huge delay differential between your finger pushing it and the sound of it coming out of the speakers. So this is the important part you have to understand. You have your USB buffer, but this is also important that if you go too low, it's not going to trigger. It'll sound crackly and stuttery and everything. So there is a happy medium. This is a part where you have to play with it. The settings of your computer, your hard drive, your processor, your RAM, your audio card, the program, what's running in the background, these will all take factor to how this is going to have to be set up for you. There is no, just do this and it's going to be perfect. That's wrong. So I'm sorry. This is going to take a little bit of effort. Pull that mic away a little bit. I was just touched it to my face. I think my camera is reversed, so every time I'm looking in one direction, it's showing the other. See, it looks like, oh, well, yep, that totally screws with me. All right, onward and forward. That's your audio card. And you want to get your latency low. I should have given you time to get through that. So there you go. And now the next thing we want to go is right below that is MIDI devices. If you have a MIDI device, I am using the Axiom 25 key, which was handed down to me by Provoke, and was handed down to him by a store, and handed down to that store by God. They're amazing. And this is the pads that I will be setting up. So when I talk about pads, I'm talking about those push pads. It's much easier to use the keys. To do the pads, we'll get to that issue there that so many people run into, and we will correct that issue. Hi. Hi. Okay. You see it in your lister when you get your audio, whichever one. And it could be the nano pad, it could be the push pad, it could be your MPC, anything that can read as a MIDI controller, even if the functions aren't made for this program. If it reads CC notes or any other thing like that, it'll pick up here. You can see everything I have, my Launchpad MIDI, the Axiom, the MIDI in and out, because if you use the MIDI instead of the USB, you're going to want this. So assume all you see is Axiom because you have an Axiom or you have a nano control. You're going to see them here and they'll say disabled. Everything does come disabled. I apologize about that. You just have to get used to it. So if you plug something once it's enabled, it stays enabled. I don't have to go back every time. I just mean when you plug in a new device, it doesn't automatically just say Reaper loves you. No, you got to turn it on, and you have to enable it the way you want to do it. So if I was to start and just come in here, this is what you would be seeing minus all the little things because I have a lot of stuff. You would just see your one probably thing in the list. If you can't see it, go ahead and hit reset all devices. Also, do not start Reaper with your device off if you plan on using it. Otherwise, you end up having to save your project, close it, reopen it. You can hit reset all MIDI devices, but sometimes it doesn't work. So my best suggestion would be make sure your MIDI devices are on. Your controllers, your keyboards, your attitude, everything towards life, just get it turned on, all right? And once you got it turned on, then you turn on Reaper and everything just goes blizzity blam. Like that. So this is what you're seeing. And you need to go to both of them. Go to your Axiom, Korg, Nano, blah, 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 blah. Right click it and enable input. And then also enable input for control messages. This will be important because that means it can read CC notes. Before, if it was just enabled, it would essentially just been running like a keyboard. And it would have worked with all your synthesizers and all your plugins. But to run it as a controller, it needs to have those CC notes attached to it. And it's cool that it has that option to turn that on and off because there's sometimes that's not necessary, or you want one controller to do one thing, one controller to do the other, and you can separate them. Trust me, after learning in Ableton and other programs, that is very useful to be able to separate the two between what you're keying and what you're controlling. Don't confuse the two. Down in the bottom here, where this is your MIDI output, this is MIDI in, we're going to right-click it and enable output. Click apply. Now you should be able to hit record arm on any channel. Open a channel if you didn't. And if you want to make it easy, here, we'll make it easy on you so you don't have to do it. Okay. Right click, insert virtual instrument. You have to choose an instrument. Go ahead and just choose the Resampler-O-Matic 5000. Resampler-O-Matic 5000. Bam! Double click it or drag it into it, doesn't matter. Now it's set up. Now if you push a key, you can see the orange popping up there. Blah, blah, blah. That's saying you got a MIDI signal. Make sure you hit your pad. Blah, 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 blah. If you're using my template and none of the keys are working, that's because I might have saved it with MIDI inputs on your virtual MIDI keyboard, which is just your hand keyboard. Your one you type clicky on, because you can use that too. You have to go to this menu, go to all MIDI inputs, all channels, and that'll send it to everything, and then it'll work. I think I fixed it and saved it, but I might not have, so I'm just warning you now. That it might be like that. Okay, so you now have your keyboard set up, you have your MIDI instruments set up, you have your audio cards set up. Now you want to drum on some pads. Okay, well, let's make that as quick as possible. So for this, go ahead and delete your channel there. Go to the package that I sent you guys out. We're going to open it up, which was the drum rack, and it was in the zip file I sent. Now everything's starting to look a little more normal to you. It makes sense a little bit. So you have your group and your drum rack. Now what I want to show you real fast is where your pads are. This is where everyone gets confused because they want to say their pads is like a CC note. And actually your pads on your keyboard read like the keys on your computer, and they're actually one of the keys. So one of these keys, the regular CDs, E, F sharp, are one of the pads. Let me show you what I mean here, and I can probably just show you in the MIDI editor. So right here, I'm going to just insert a new MIDI item. Just click it, and it'll fill in the area in which you have your loop marker set up. If I double click that, it pulls open the keyboard. You can see here. You can switch it to keyboard, or you can list, because if you're playing on pads, you don't really need the keyboard. But I like it like that just in case. Turn off my key snapping so it shows all the keys. If your keys are shaded, it's because you have key snapping, and you can set your keyboard to any key. A flat, B flat, blah 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 blah. Your majors, chords, triads, melodic minors. So it's pretty darn awesome. But as far as sampling, you want to be able to hit all your keys. So we just turn key snap off. You can see right here it says, a little easier without the keys, the club, the percussion. That's because I had already set some samples on there earlier, and when you set a sample on it, it kind of gave it the name, but they're gone now. But those are the buttons. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So if I hit a key, I'm hitting a key right now, and it looks like I am hitting down here. I need to turn my... There we go. We're up here. Now I can zoom up the keyboard. There, C4. I'm a C4. You're a C4. There's those keys there. Now if I hit a pad, that pad represents one of those keys. That's one of the pads I'm hitting. There's another pad. There's another pad. There's another pad. You can see they're in the same area, but they're not in the right places. They're not in a line. So you kind of have to know which ones they are. This is where I'd say you have a couple ways of doing it. Me, I just kind of did it one at a time and left this open because I'm lazy. They're already sequenced to these right here, though. But to build it, you have to know that these are in a different spot. And I want to do another one, so we want to add... If we go into our effects drum kit here, what you're going to see is I took that Resampler-O-Matic and I made it 6 times. I just added in here, went to Resampler-O-Matic, if I can see it behind it, right here, added one. Now it pops another one. I can go up here and rename it. Rename effects instance to Rick is amazing. Yeah, that's it, because Rick is amazing. Now I have a whole new one that I've added here, but I don't have a channel for it. So I have to insert new track. Now, knowing your ins and outs are very important. Hope we heard a meet meet. Did you guys hear a meet meet? No one heard the meet meet. Oh, Don't want the phone that's getting staticky. No phones by the microphones, guys. By the way, phones are no bueno for that. So what we have here is you have all these kicked up. If I go to the kick, you notice you have all these parameters. We didn't go through all of these yet because I had to stop and go to your audio card. You should be able to notice these are very basic. Volume, minimum volume. That means the max volume it can go and the minimum volume it can go. If your pads have touch sensitivity, which they sometimes have to be set up, I had to set mine up the other day because they were just on sampling, which is great for drums. But sometimes, like on a hi-hat, you want to be able to go, and you can. That's done in the keyboard. Whatever keyboard you have, that's in the keyboard, not in Reaper. Don't try to change that. This sets the control of what it will do, but your keyboard has to allow it as well. I'm not going to go over how to do that. You can ask me later, and I can show you. Then you have the most important thing you guys have to know here is right here. Note start and note end. So when we go into our MIDI here, and this is our first one, this is where I want my kick drum to go, and it even says it's my very first pad that I'm hitting here. If I hold my mouse over there, you can see up in the top left corner it says D350. Pretty simple, right? And if I go up one, just so you know what it means, E, F, this is your keys, but it also gives it a number that D3 is key 50. We can go ahead and close that. So right here, we want our note start. You can just type it in, 50, 50. That means only that key is going to play this sample or sound, and you can put long things in here. Be very careful what you put in long before you click on obey notes off. Otherwise, it'll just play. But that allows that to be that key now. So when I touch this, you can see it hitting green there. That's me hitting the pad. Oh, someone's trying to bother. Not right now, fella. Someone wants to buy some old CD players for their car stereo. I'll have a couple of them. Took 4 weeks to sell. He can wait. Now, for this Rick is amazing, we have to know what key we're going to send it to. I already have most of these set up. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. I want to use my very end pad. So I'm going to open up this. That's that one. That's 46. I think one of these might already be using 46. Let me see. 42, 51, 38, 45. No! So this, we're going to go 46. Because that's what note that is. Now, if you put multiple notes, that's how many notes. It comes in handy if you note start. You use all of them if you want it to be a keyboard. But we're working with drum samples, mind you. Yeah. So that will add that one in. Now, what you see up here at the top screen, outside of all of this, which we can get to in the future, and we haven't loaded no samples in, it's just blank. You have your things here, attack, decay, your release here at the end that you can grab. We'll get to that once the sample's in. But what we need to do is we need to get this drum sound that I added into here to go to this channel where we added for it. And then we're going to call it the Rick is Amazing channel. Because that's how we're rolling, right? Rick is Amazing. Yeah! I'm going to open this up so I can see all of them bigger. If you click that again, it just minimizes, gets them out of your way, pops them all back up so you can work full screen. So this Rick is Amazing here. We need to send to it. I need to know what was the last thing I used. You can see here if I hold over the channels that have all the sends and receives. I did already set these up for you, and I'm doing this right now so you guys know how. Let's go to the kick drum. The kick drum was the last one I did. It should have been the first. I did it last on accident. So if I open it, it's receiving the drum kit because it's wanting sound from that instrument on channel 13 and 14. So we don't want to use 13 and 14. We want to use the next ones after. So we'll use 15 and 16. Receives drum kit audio stereo source, 15 and 16. Now there's way more than 15 and 16. As you go, it'll keep adding for you, or if you go into here, you have track channels that it says there's 16. I can say there's 64. But I try to keep the meter small, so put it at 16. So you don't think there's a limit there. Again, Reaper has no limit. I dare you to find the limit. I dare ye. So we now have this one channel here. Rick is amazing. Receiving that drum kit with 15 and 16, which is the auxiliary channels that we're using. Again, this one is, you can see it in yellow, 3 and 4. We don't ever use 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is your main output. Always just ignore 1 and 2. That's what's going to your master and then out to your speakers. Your auxiliaries are 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. And you can use them however you want. Use them in mono, use them in stereo. None of that's going to matter. Now, the reason why I did audio instead of MIDI is because when I'm done writing this, I want to export the MIDI track that I made to audio to work with it in audio. That's just letting you know ahead of time that when we get done, I'm going to export the little crap thing that I created that would be horrendous into audio really quick to work with it in my song in production. But back to what we were doing. So you set this up. It's now receiving it. But that instrument is not sending to it. That channel it's added to it. So what we got to do is go to Rick is Amazing. If you go up here, you can MIDI learn things and have also it'll link different things in here. It'll show what it can and can't control, and you can hit a button, it'll do it. But we're not worried about that. We're not going to parameters. Here is 2 out, and there's 2, 3, 4 out. If you click it, this is all the outputs you've been setting up on all the tracks. 3 and 4, 5 and 6. These are all the kicks, snares, and we just did 15 and 16. So we want to turn 1 and 2 off and turn 15 and 16 on. That means this will only send to 15 and 16. All right, we're going to move this to the side because now we are ready to throw a sound in there. We need to test it, right? So that folder I gave you some sounds. I guess I gave you guys the TR-909 folder, so you have all your 909s. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you the 808s. I just wasn't going to play that, but there you go. I gave some vector samples. There's some audio samplers. If I click them, they play automatically.
I'm not
the tempo
afraid.
match is set to off.
Yeah.
So they will play in time of their
Yeah.
themselves. This is where I'm going to put the headphones on so I can hear what I'm doing while I'm talking. Got to monitor right. See, there we go.
You'll be contacted by Inspector Rock. Arthur Rocks.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He'll be posing as a politician.
Well, let's
You'll
go
have
to
no
our
problem
drum
recognizing
kits.
him. That's right.
Let's
Rock.
choose punchy drum. That one sounds just fine. If tempo matching, be careful doing it on drum kits. You don't want to stretch it too much without realizing it and thinking it's bad. If I turn it on and click some of these, they don't sound right. I just keep tempo match off for drums. That one sounds good. We're going to just drag and drop it right into here. Boom. And you notice how it's this is quieter. I always turn my sampler, the volume here, down. You don't know how loud a sample is when you're scanning, and it can destroy your ears and your speakers. So in my Media Explorer, I do keep the volume down. And as you notice, when this came through, it was much louder. I'm just clicking on the play button. Now, essentially, if this is send to there, yep, and I hit that pad now, which I set to that, which you should see right here. Yay, we have samplage. So what we're going to want to do now is add in some other samples, and let's work on in that. So I put my kick drum there. I don't really want that there, so we're going to remove this. One of the cool things I want to show you about this now is if you look here, right under the sample, which again, here's your attack. So I'm holding the attack and hitting the button. You can hear it attack forward, decay if I want to pull it down. And the release is over here, always tucked. But I don't want this here, so what? I want you to know two things. Do you want to delete it? There's a button here called List. Click List, and then you can just delete it. You can also reverse it. It has some little items here. I'm not going to delete it quite. I want to show you something. I'm going to go back to list. You just hit it. Goes back and forth. Listy. Yeah. Because you're in a folder that has a bunch of samples in it, it's going to show everything in that folder in your list here. So if I hit the drop-down menu, everything that's in that folder I gave you is there. If you have a different drum sample, so it at least gives you your rack. You can click your kick drum, but you can now go through everything in that folder that's available through that without having to drag and drop or go back to the Media Explorer. That's an awesome feature to put in there. One I don't use all that often, but you might. I know some people like it that way. But we're going to go back to list because I'm going to be picky here, and I'm going to delete. Then I'm going to go up to kick. We want to start with the kick drum. Now we're going to put you in. I want you to be there. Snare. We could. I want to. Should we do a 909 snare? .909 clap or rim shot. Sometimes my computer's a little draggy. It's always my hard drive. Yep, a little clap. So we'll throw the clap in here, and that's our snare. Perk. We need a perk. Yes, we do. Tom-toms. Tom-toms. I always like my low tom. Where's the low tom? Is that top one the only low tom? Okay, so we get a low tom in the perk. Open hat. Works for me. We're not being picky here, right? We're just getting it in here, so you're ready there. So just right off the bat, you can see we have all these different items set up. Now we haven't got back. Remember, the very first thing we did is we installed the repack, and we installed the MS5K RS 5K manager. You're going to see why that's a very amazing thing here in just a minute now that we have some things set up. So our first thing is our kick. Test it on our pads here. There's my tom. There's my hat. Cool. So now we have a little beat set up and we can play that. We can get past this super quick now and into some fun stuff. Go through this just a little bit. You have your pitches, your releases. You don't have to worry about MIDI channel. Pitch bend allows you to pitch it a bit. You also have your resample mode, so you can get better quality depending on what you're needing to get out of it. It's usually just a default and works well, but if there's something you're trying to get or get a better quality, that'll help. Now, we don't need this MIDI item anymore. We're going to delete you. Click our meters here again and clear them out. Everything is really hot. And for that reason, let's go here really fast. Just bear with me real quick. Just go to Project Settings, Advanced, and then right here you see Pan Law. I always set mine to a -2.5. It comes default 0.0 because Reaper is used for a lot of post-production, audio over video, and mastering. In which case you don't need that pan law and that stereo subtraction. It's going to be much more beneficial. But in the words of producing, and then you can save as default so you never have to touch that again. If you do heavy panning, trances, synths, acids, I would go to a -3, give you that little extra headroom there. It makes an amazing ability, and you can change that as you. You can also, just hit OK there. You can also, if you on the pan here, if you right click on it, you can override the default pan law for that single track. So if I have a synth that's just left and right, bah, 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 I can say, and it's just peaking so heavy because of it, I can override pan law and rise it up a little more to give it a little more duck and spatial between the center and your two left and rights. And it can help in the mix down tremendously. Understanding pan law is extraordinarily important if you want to mix down a song properly, but also without ripping your hair out. I don't have hair to rip out. It is important I do it right the first time. So we're going to unclick that. That was just some food for thought there, and that's also going to help our peaks here, so they're not so loud. So now everything is normal, and we can... Let's close our Docker, so Alt-D. We have our full screen here now. Nothing really in the way, and we can hit our pads. you needed a metronome and you hit play, hit the loop button here. And the tempo is at 140 right now, so we're essentially at dubstep tempo. Yeah, you're dubbing it. You're dubstepping it that way. So if you needed a metronome, and just for fun, I'm not really going to metronome. I'm just going to freestyle it in for fun. We're going to, if we hit loop, it's essentially, you know what that's going to do. It's going to loop at the end of your bar here that you've set up, which you can make as big or small as you need. We'll just go small bar right there. That way we can zoom in. Remember, your mouse will does this the zoomy that you're seeing. Space bar stop. If I like to record, sorry, with this off, because it'll want to loop. What it'll want to do is loop, and we'll leave it on. I'll show you. Right-click your metronome. Trying to save you guys from that horrible place for a microphone to have a cough. If you right-click your metronome, you can set in your pre-roll. This means when you hit record, it's going to play a sound, and you can run metronome during playback, run metronome during recording, count in before playback, count in before recording. If you count in before recording, count in 2 measures. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. A lot of people just do 1. You can close it. That way when you hit record, it won't just auto-record. It gives you time to stage yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. So we got a bunch of takes. That's essentially what it did. Is I just recorded a bunch of different takes, and it'll show all of them here. Save all, and now you have all the different ones. And you can go through, piece them together, work one at a time. If you have just the one that you like, or if you pieced it together, like I like, put a slice here, here, here. Remember, S is to slice. We want you mixed with you, but I like that one, and you. Like that. Oh, yeah, like that. And then select them. Oops. Not you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Right click. Glue items. Boom. Now you have just your one solid one out of all the ones you chose. Oh yeah, that's a nightmare, isn't it? It sounds horrible. Oh. Now, and you're seeing them play in all the different areas that they're being used. The snare, the kick. Now you're wondering though, but I don't have to go through and fix all of those. Well, here's what you wanted to see, and you just hear tom, hi-hat, clap, all the things we put in. These are all the notes for each one. We can go select them all. Up in your top menu right here, there's a Q. That's quantize. You'll get used to using that one a lot. Quantize. And now, I have it set to 8th. Whatever you set the grid here to at the bottom is what it's going to quantize to. You want it to quantize just a little ways, like you were just a little bit off, but you don't want the notes to throw over a lot and screw up the whole segment. You'd be like 16th or just a 32nd because you're such a good drummer. You just need to scoot everything to the bar point. But I'm such a crappy drummer, we're going to take it to the 8th. You can choose selected notes, all notes, just the position and note length, and hit OK. Now, I'm still so far off, you're not going to hear it properly. It's not going to make this beat sound good because I was off so much and selected all of them, but you'll see what it did here. Now, obviously, you can also just write the notes, and I can just delete these and write them in. If I hold... Oh, that wasn't control, by the way. I always hit that Windows button instead of control. It's a horrible habit on this new keyboard. we'll pull these over to the beginning. If I hold control, you get that plus. It allows me to copy it over. Hey, now we got a nice straight beat. Select all of these, copy. Yeah, there we go. So you can write your notes in just as well as you can live record them. Now, let's hurry and record in just a quick one real fast. And I'm going to turn this off just so it doesn't re-loop on me. And what it'll do is just keep the marker going. I'm going to turn my metronome on here for a second. And we're going to just... And you could also set with this record arm, it's set to Control R. You can set that to a MIDI. So hitting this key starts recording. And I mean, you can set this up to do a lot of stuff. I think I even have a record button on here that should be able to do it. It's just... Yeah, if it's a MIDI, it's just not set to it. But I could go into actions, show, record, transpose. Yeah, it has MIDI keyboard record, so. Let's go. Let's make a little beat, yeah. So I can show you the next part, shan't we? And then I'll show you a little bit with pitch so you understand it once it's recorded in, and then I want to show you just something really fun, which is the reefer. After we get through the reefer, we're going to call it good. I didn't get any questions, so I don't know where you guys want me to go. And to do so, we'll wait till later, but for now, I got you guys drumming. I got you guys sampling. I'm not going to try to hit all three at the same time because I have no drum dexterity whatsoever. Zero. But I want to show you how to get these to samples. So we're going to hit record again. I have the metronome, so it should hear it this time when I start. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a really big measure counting. Let's switch that back to one measure, shan't we? The delete button. Why did that take so long? There, just something simple. You can tell, like, I suck at that. I have no key coordination whatsoever. We'll go back in here really fast. Grab all my little kicks and snares. It's probably close enough that I could take it to a 16th and see. Quantize. And then I do want to take this one here that I saw that I was up. Put that on the 1. Pull this one over. Here to here. Pull that snare onto there. But even it'll take a little bit of editing because it doesn't know exactly where you want it to be. Let's fix U's again. Duplicate U over to here to get to the halfway. And I had that key we need to there. There. So if we loop U and turn the metronome off, we have this now. Super simple. Then I'll play on these channels. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all of them this time. And you can just do any individuals of the ones like this, kicking the snare. But I'll show you what it does. I'm just going to select them all, right click. There's two things you can do here. You can freeze them, and that'll convert them to audio unlocked, or you can just render them. I prefer to just get them straight to audio. I don't need the freezing or the MIDI. I'll just render it, and then I will save the MIDI track and pull it to the bottom and close it all out. If I need to go back to it, I can. So it's a drum. So traditionally with drums, I would always try to keep everything mono. Some hi-hats you might want to pan around, you might want to get creative, but for most parts, your main drums should be mono and center. So I'll render tracks to mono. Remember, I just selected these. I didn't select the drum kit. Boom. Now I have audio files. It always leaves a little extra tail off the recording for delays or reverbs or other items. It does a good job, and then you can pull back and edit it and fade them as needed. And I don't really want those in my drum rack anymore because they're complete. I don't want my drum rack to just be for MIDI only. So I'm going to grab these, which those are dead. We're going to act like these have audio. Act like you see audio in them. I'm grabbing all of them by using Control. The same way as again, in Microsoft Word. If you hold Control, you can multi-select. If you hold Shift, it selects everything in between. Same command codes. I've got them all grabbed, and I'm just going to pull them out of that group. See that blue bar there? How it's inside there? If I let go with that blue bar under that track, that will put it inside that folder group. If I pull it down a little bit and you see it go all the way across, that's going to put those outside of that group. I'm going to pull them outside of that group. Folder, chain, bus. You call it whatever you want. Gear. But now this is done. I can unarm my drum kit, drop this down so it's not very visible, and now I can work on the rest of my song, bring in samples, bring in instruments, and I don't have this big rack in my way here. But I still have what I was working on here. And I can tell that snare is not lined up on that 3, because that's just wrong. We're going to slice, and with this section, get rid of that. We'll pull this over there. It's just as easy to work with audio as it is MIDI. And that also means that this kick isn't where it's supposed to be, isn't it? It's supposed to be on the 0.5, which you can see right there. 0.5. Little slicing and editing doesn't hurt anything. Okay. We can go ahead and delete these sound files. They were nothing, you know, they're just blank audio. So which means we can delete the channels too. Now the reason why I gave you these other items to play with in here, not just the 909s and stuff, or these samples, was because I wanted to show you pitch adjust, pitch control, and reefer. Reefer happens to be the bee's knees. It has helped me for all mix downs in every shape or form. You've just got to be careful and not be stupid when using it, because it can be extraordinarily extreme. So we have a little bee here, and just for fun, let's take one of our scenes from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because that's the shit, right? Let's take the bathtub.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
We need the white
Jefferson,
rabbit!
White rabbit. I need a rising sound.
White rabbit rising! So we're going to take that sample, because that was a great part of the movie, right? We enjoy that part. We're going to throw that in there. And when you see this P above it, it means it's not 44K, 44.1K. It's usually lower, or 48. And that means it's being resampled into Reaper to match the proper bit rate that you're using. This was out of a folder with really crappy bit rates, so this is smaller. I'm sure, yeah, it's 11,000. It's really bad quality, which will work great for what we're going to do. So we have this playing now.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
What tape? You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
What?
These are kind of low. I brought them with that MIDI. I think it might be I set my pads on a different level, and I should be hitting them pretty hard, and I didn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these, select them. You get to learn something new again. To normalize. Normalize is something most of you guys know from other programs. It allows it to bring the sound volume up to 0 so you can recontrol it. Now again, if you normalize too many things or normalize something that's been stretched already, it can do damage to the audio. It can leave artifacts or leave horrible hisses and crisps, but we're going to give it a try here. And we're going to normalize. There's two different ones. Normalize items and normalize items with common gain. Common gain means it's going to try to analyze the highest peak in the sound you're analyzing and have all the rest of it match to that versus all going to 0 dB. But we're just going to normalize. Now they're heavy peak. See how they just went up?
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
What tape?
Jefferson Airplane. White rabbit. I need a rising sound.
You're doomed.
And then let's move you over here into the middle here. Now, what I wanted to show you truly with this sample is the pitch. So we're going to solo
You better
this.
pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
You gotta love that sample. We are going to go in and take the repitch. Now, again, you can pitch this here. Pitch. I have in the buttons I already set up for you guys. If you guys had set up the same menus I've given you, you have octave up, octave down, semitone up, semitone down. But you also have a more controlled, if you put it over the effects, method of doing it, and that is in the repitch. That adds it as an effect over it. Now, right now...
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
It's all normal. You're hearing it as
Cameras in our-
right here. You see your shift full range. It's then your sense semitones octave, so it sets per note instead of free range. This is like free range chicken right there. The format allows it to crisp the format of it, so if you go super low, it can change it and bring in a little more tone to it. It's effective. And then hit down here. If you're working with voice and other things, you want to always make sure you're staying in mono. Doing it in stereo can create some bad feedback and don't always sound right. A lot of your best pitch changes will come in a mono algorithm. Speaking of that, algorithm right here is a list from hell, and this is just the beginning. So you have all these different updated versions. You have the Sound Touch. The Elastic is what Reapers won awards for, is their pitch under the Elastic, and what they call the rubber band. They have new ones. They have the Soloist, Efficient, Pro. I usually stick with Pro. I use Soloist if it's voice, because it works really well, not monophonic, but speech. And you have different, or I can go to a Pro, and then in their parameters, I can preserve lowest pitches, lower, most, high, higher, and it tells you how it's going to change this. And let's show you.
You better pray to God
This
there's
is
some
normal.
authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put
Let's
that
go down
TV
one
on.
octave. Now, let's change the format of it here to preserve most pitches.
Why rather? You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Oh, that's just too much, isn't it?
Why rather?
Now, let's go to preserve highest pitches. Let's preserve lowest pitches.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad.
Now let's change it to speech over, which is the soloist.
You better pray to God there's
It's
some authorities in that.
monophonic and speech. Oop, not mid-side. Speech. Now let's tip that up and just pull let's pull the semitones down 4.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man.
Or you love happy hardcore, you know what I mean?
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
We'll take that back to Pro here and preserve most pitches.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
So there's just so much you can do within the pitch itself. All the algorithms, it's not just change pitch. You can get really in depth.
You better pray to God there's some
Turn the
authorities in that
format up,
bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
turn down.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag.
Here's where we get real interesting. Down here at the bottom, you have add shifter. Oh, you think you could just do it once? No, let's take you back to normal.
You better pray to God there's some.
That's normal. Let's add a shifter and another shifter. Oh no, we're gonna create a chorus.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag.
no.
Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
So let's go to the second one. We want this an octave up. The third one, we want octave down. Yeah, you didn't know you could do this, could you? This is all news to you.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag.
I want the normal one to be louder. I want the lower one to be down a little bit. And this is, oh, no, yeah.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
Watch it.
Cameras in our plane. Why rather?
Now, the parameter, this will affect all 3. So if you want to do it separately, you probably want to add a whole different repitch. Be warned. Using automation, because I know what you're thinking.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put
You
that
can
TV on.
automate these, like we talked about last time in your automation. Once you have an effect on, you can go through and open up your track envelopes in automation, and it shows all of them here. Now, there's a lot of them here because we set up 3 different versions. You can automate 1, 2, or 3. Let's close it back down to 1 here. Delete shifter, so it's normal there. We can close you.
You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in.
And then, so it's just the few here. Let's do full range. Full range was the one that's free range chicken. Oh, free range chicken. It's just everywhere. Opens up the automation lane. Middle is normal. Top is high pitch and low. I think that makes sense on most automation in most forms.
You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in that bag. Otherwise you're in bad fucking trouble.
What's him?
You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in that bag.
Otherwise you're in bad fucking trouble.
If it's hard to get right where you want it, you can grab the lane here at the bottom with the arrow and just boom, and you can open it up so you can really edit here.
You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in that bag. You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in that bag. Otherwise you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
What's him?
You
Trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
What's him?
never want to do that.
What's him?
Jefferson Airplane.
Why, Rabbit? What's him?
Jefferson Airplane.
Why, Rabbit?
And you can see when you're clicking it, 9.45 in the little yellow box. I keep wanting to point at the screen.
You better pray
can't
to
see
God
me
there's some
pointing at the
Thorsies in
screen.
that bag. Otherwise you're in bad
I'll
fucking
point you.
trouble.
Music, man. Put
Yeah.
that TV on.
What's him?
Jefferson Airplane.
Plane. Why, Rabbit?
Wait, rabbit. And then we'll pull you back down to here, and then we'll let it stretch slower there.
What's him?
Jefferson Airplane.
Why, Rabbit?
Rising sound. You're doomed.
So just now you have a little understanding of pitch. We'll pull you back up here so I can see everything there, and it's already now set up the way I want it.
You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in that bag. Otherwise you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
Oh, that's pitch shifter is awesome. You have to admit it's pretty cool.
Rising sound.
Now let's have some more fun. I want to talk to you about the Reefer. Reefer acts as an EQ. It's the one I use for all my EQ. I do use Re-EQ and the regular software EQ that you use in Reason or anything else. And it is very effective. But the reason I use dynamic EQ, I will show you. And you know what? We're going to clear envelope so it's just normal.
You better pray to God there's some Thorsies in that bag.
That still leaves the effect here. It just takes away the automation, so it deleted all the automation changes we made, so it's just there.
You better pray
Now-
to God there's some Thorsies in that bag. Otherwise you're in bad
If you can hear in the background of this, we'll use this as a sample. It may not be the best sample to do this, but it's a good one to show you what subtractive EQ is after I show you.
What's it?
You hear all these kind of background
What's
sounds of air
Jefferson Airplane.
from the recording, from the video, from sounds, music.
Otherwise you're in bad.
You hear it right there, right on the loop.
Otherwise
I
you're
was
in
to
bad.
isolate just those. That's a background hiss and sound. So what we're going to do is go back to our effects here, hit the add button. Right here you have Reefer. Reefer, it's EQ plus dynamics processor, which is why you have to be careful. This will heavily affect your dynamics. But it also works as an EQ. If you hold shift, well, actually, here you can just click. If you click anywhere, you can create dots. It's not on how many tabs and reset. Point smooth. I like to keep it on smooth so you don't get sharp. That way I'm working on sub. These are your hertz down here, 50 hertz, 100 hertz, 200. This is your sound ceiling. Most EQs that you work with don't go below minus 24. So I like using this on all my tracks other than sub and kick. I will put a high pass on just like that, all the way down to like 50 hertz, so that sub is the only thing in literal existence in that song. And I mean literal, not just EQ'd it out. No, it still stacks there, and you're spending 3 days mixing down. I don't know why it sucks. I thought you mixed down sucks. That's because sound is still existing where your ears don't hear it, fool. Believe it or not, that sound just doesn't cut out because you went down 24 decibels. It's a sound wave that's three-dimensional and is covering a massive spectrum much larger than 24 decibels. Yes, so that's why I do that. Now, I have this EQ. You can hear it on here. See, you can see... Oh, I have that. We'll go back to that in a second. Open you back up.
Otherwise you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on.
What's it?
Jefferson
Hear
Airplane.
the sub go
Why,
away.
Rabbit? Rising sound. You're doomed.
Or I can go the other
Otherwise
direction.
you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV on. Campers on airplane. Why rabbit?
Now you can cut out some of that fuzz just by doing this. See how you EQ
Otherwise, you're in
that?
bad fucking trouble.
But a lot of it is still there. And I'm gonna show you a really cool toy that I've used for isolation. I've used for correcting my own vocals using my crappy Dynamics microphone, which is just a
You better pray to God there's some
piece of
authorities in
crap.
that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
this little thing right here. It's also wireless too.
Campers
So
on
I
airplane.
gotta get a lot of air. I have to really push it to get volume out into the programs.
You better
So,
pray to God there's some authorities in that
I
bag.
have to do this a lot
Otherwise,
to
you're in
do
bad fucking
editing
trouble.
to get that hiss.
Put that TV.
Alright, so one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to reset back to 0. Right now the mode is EQ. That's just normal EQ like you would know it. I'm going to actually take it. You can run it as a gate, a compressor, convolution. Trust me, the Reaper does a lot more than you think it does. We're going to put it on subtract. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back in and find that dead airspace and make a loop around that air that we don't want. Could be right at that beginning, right? I'm going to turn that off for just a second with that.
You better pray to
so I can get this. I'm going to turn my 120 because I want to get before that green sound. I want just the air. Just that. Turn the reefer back on. Hit automatic build noise profile. What that's going to do is whatever you're playing, it's going to build a subtraction profile out of that. This will be very extreme and it's going to make a lot of audio loss. We'll come back and correct it, but this will help take out some of that fuzz, but it'll be extreme at first. So bear with me for a minute. Click this and then hit play. Oops, see it all disappear. You can hit stop. Here's where it's important. Now that you hit stop, before you do anything, uncheck that box. So it's not creating a profile, it's already created. Now you can turn new off. Roll over something here. I want best quality. Make sure that always stays on best quality. I used my mouse roller over it and it changed. Zoom back out to get your whole sample. And now again, this is going to sound very convoluted because it's taken out a lot of the sound as well. But it will take out all that air and we'll go back and edit it.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag.
Actually,
Otherwise, you're in
turned it
bad
off a lot.
fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
You can hear artifacts in the background
Why
of
rabbit?
Tucky.
I need a rising sound.
So without it,
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
and then with it.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag.
You hear a
Otherwise, you're in bad
huge
fucking
clarity
trouble.
difference there, don't you? Then when you layer that over the song,
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag.
and you have
Otherwise, you're in
synth,
bad
it's
fucking
so
trouble.
much cleaner, and you don't have that background noise that you're working with. Also, you
What's
can
it?
amplify it, add effects to it better. So just for that, let's add. I want to show another just for fun. I'm going to be ending here very soon. Like, I'm already way past my point, and I've been going for a while, and we only have like one person watching. No one said hi, so we're going to go and add another fun one. It's called Reverb. This can do a ton, and I'm just going to drag and drop it onto this. You don't have to click. Like, you can just also drag and drop everything, like I said, onto there. Now, it starts out blank, and I believe there's some presets now, and they've added some, but I've never done most of them same. What you want to do is click add. You have echo generator. That works kind of like the echo that you would hear. A reverb. Let's just do a reverb generator.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
Turn the wet up.
What's it?
Campers on airplane. Why rabbit? I need a rising sound.
You're doomed. You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
What's it?
Campers on airplane. Why rabbit? I need a rising
Changes
sound.
where it starts in it.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
What's it?
Turn the wet back
Campers on
down.
airplane. Why rabbit? I need a rising sound.
Cool effect. That's all in Reaper. Now, not just there. Let's add another one. Let's add an echo generator into it. Now it's
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
let's space it
Man,
out.
put that TV.
What's it?
Got to add length to it so it goes through the whole sample.
I need a rising sound.
You're doomed. You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
What's it?
Campers on airplane. Why rabbit? I need a rising sound.
Let's space them out a little bit more.
You better pray to God there's some authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
Music, man. Put that TV.
What's it?
Campers on airplane. Why rabbit? I need a rising sound.
You're doomed.
Cool little trick, isn't it? Yeah, that's all free.
You better
That's
pray to
just
God there's
all
authorities
works
in
in
that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble.
I've never even used some of these actually. You can even I have used file. You can use a file itself and create what's called a convolute reverb, where it's taken the transients of that file to make the reverb. Let me see. It's been a long time since I've done it, and a lot of people spend a lot of money on those reverbs. I know some of them like $200, $300, $400 for a convolution reverb that you can make in Reaper with free, which is just essentially using an audio file to backing over the sound. Let's just go in here and choose a random one. Halloween. That sounds creepy, right?
You better pray to God there's
Yep. Got a mix. Fly minus 18 gain. It'll auto mute it if you ever peek out.
You better pray to God there's authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking trouble. What team?
Campers on our plane. Why rabbit?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
You better pray to God there's authorities in that bag. Otherwise, you're in bad fucking
Here,
trouble.
because it'll run through all these.
What team?
Campers on our plane. Why rabbit?
You better pray to God there's authorities in that bag.
How's that
Otherwise, you're in
crazy,
bad
right?
fucking trouble.
Okay, well, I've showed you everything I wanted to show you. I got you guys MIDI drums set up. Make sure that you pulled the package out, the repack downloaded. I didn't show you that. Oh my gosh, that's the best freaking part of being able to make this drum rack. Guys, we need to go back to the drum rack. Crap, I'm not done. We installed that repack for it, and we totally got spaced off because I wanted to show you the reverb. I'm excited about the Subtract EQ. And there's so many other things. It's so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay. So we already installed this. All we have to do is open it. We're going to just mute all these out for a moment. Reopen our drum group because it's already here. Arm it. We can unmute these because it auto mutes them once you export so they don't get heard. They get heard. We'll unmute them for a minute. Delete this for a moment because we don't really need any audio there for what I'm going to show you. So we have our repack, the RS5K. If you set it up to a code, go ahead and hit that code and open it. If you did not, go to your actions list and run it that way. RS5K. It'll be at the bottom. And it's Reaper Sampler Omatic 5000K. That's why it's RS5K. Just it's a long name for Reaper Sampler Omatic 5000. Click on the one that says background and hit run. Now I'm just going to click off of the drum kit file. If you notice, if I click on drum kit where we put all our samples, kick, snare, perk, it shows them all here now, which is what we all set up. So I have to take my MIDI input. If yours went auto to left and you're not getting MIDI signal, go to input MIDI, all MIDI inputs, all channels. There you go. Arm the wrong one. Arm your drum kit. That's the better way to do it. So if you click it, now it's what it's actually showing here is every one of your instruments here is showing in your pad here. So you don't even need this open anymore. You can just drag and drop in here and it'll also create it for you and create an instance down here for you. Like the Rick is amazing. These have got the sounds. You can click it and do it, and it shows the audio here. You can turn it up. There's our snare. Right here, the clap. Turn that gain up. You have your decay, sustain, release, all right here. And if you wanted to edit it, just right-click, float leak effects, and it'll pop it up here, and you can do all your editing. So now when you're playing, you have your Ableton rack there. Yay! Look, your rack. You can drag and drop samples right into it, and it'll create a whole new resampler-o-matic on that channel in line in link. It does it all for you. So this is an amazing tool to have if you're big on it. It allows you to keep more in here than you need. So if you have a push pad or a nano control or any of those other ones. That'll allow you to do that. Dun, dun. So yeah, that's what that does. You can go into your settings here and kind of figure things out as you go. It's fully controllable. A person wrote the script, so it is fully, and it's constantly being updated. If you go into your repack and go to things, it'll update all these items as you go, and you can get the updates from it. The YouTube video for this don't look anything like this because it's already been updated so much. You could also just click this screen and it shows only the instruments that you have loaded. So right here are all the instruments. It doesn't give you the screen up top to be able to do some things, which is why it's good to go back to your screen, which is this. There's this one as well. There's lots of views for it. But your main one, if you want to change the main view, is under your layout again. There we go. So I showed you that. Hope you guys, if you guys have any more questions, now that you've seen this and you got this, if I skip something or somewhere got lost in between, by all means, let me know. So I'm about to cancel out. Mad love.